Good morning, Unity Halton Peel, and welcome to the Great Experiment. Today is October the 6th, 2024, and I am actually not here. I've pre-recorded this as I needed to clone myself, and guess what? I've succeeded because I'm here and I'm there at the same time. For those of you watching later, my name is Wendy Carr. I am a licensed Unity teacher, and it is my honor and privilege to present to you and join with you in our gathering this Sunday morning. As always, let's just take a moment to breathe. I don't know about you folks, but it's been a busy week for me. And let's just take a moment, remind ourselves why we come together, what the purpose is for this gathering. And in doing so, we remind ourselves of the mission of Unity Halton Peel, to lovingly inspire transformation and be of service to the world. We'll talk more about that as the course of this gathering. And now it's time for our daily word. And I will call on Margaret to please read it for us. And I hope that was long enough pause. And Margaret, if I interrupted you, my apologies. Our first song today, Swing Wide the Doors by Daniel Namot.
Swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. Here we go now. Swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. I'm not holding it in anymore. I'm gonna shout it out loud. I understand now what I'm here for and what this life is about. It's about love, it's about laughter, it's about comfort and smiles. It's about love, it's about kindness, it's about hearts open wide. It's about love, it's about passion, it's about taking a chance. It's about love, it's about service, it's about lending a hand. About lending a hand. Swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. about comfort and smiles. It's about love, it's about kindness, it's about hearts open wide. It's about love, it's about passion, it's about hands. It's about love, it's about service, it's about lending a hand. It's about love, it's about laughter, it's about comfort and smiles. It's about love, it's about kindness, it's about hearts open wide. It's about love, it's about passion, it's about taking a chance. It's about love, it's about service, it's about lending a hand. About lending a hand. Swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. All right now, swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine.
Yes, one of my favorites. So it is the first Sunday of October already. I blinked and September went by. Our calendar for the month is guidance, and our affirmation is, God, here I am, guide me. And let us just take a moment in that consciousness of guidance, just to open our hearts and minds, finding that space within where we feel the connection of the oneness. Not only our connection to each other, but our connection to that inner divinity, that aspect of ourselves that is eternal, divine, universal, and something beyond that which is human. And in this consciousness, we not only hold each other in love and light, but we also hold unity of Vancouver and unity of York Region. And of course, we hold all who were affected by the hurricane this week. That was quite the storm. And we hold in light and love all the first responders, linesmen who are seeking to rescue and restore things to their best possible way. And for this time together, for this opportunity to pause in the week and just come into this space, we are so grateful. And for our second song, I decided I needed to hear this one just because of the kind of week it's been.
Some days are tangos, some twist and shout. Some are quick step, where you scramble about. Nobody can tell me how to feel, how to move. Gotta find my own rhythm, find my own groove. Though the world may be jumping in a frenzied state, I may need to slow down and go my own pace. Tomorrow might find me rocking away. I just feel like waltzing today. Life's about dancing, the world is my stage. I lead or I follow, I give or I take. Some days I'm tap dancing, just holding my own. Sometimes love's my partner, sometimes I dance alone. Though the world may be jumping in a frenzied state, just feel like waltzing today. Sometimes whirling and spinning's just fine. Right now, a slow dance is what I have in mind. Though the world may be jumping in a frenzied state, I may need to slow down, go my own pace. Tomorrow may find me rocking away. I just feel like waltzing today. Just feel like waltzing today.
Thank you, Sue Riley. So welcome to part 3 of my 4-part series on unity in the Bible. And today we're going to talk a little bit about prosperity and gratitude. I could probably do more than one on this, but we'll see what we can get through. So our journey so far, in case you missed parts 1 and 2. First of all, one of the things about unity is that we're not going to tell you how to believe. We're going to invite you, as Emily Cady wrote in her book, so far as possible, lay aside for the time being all previous theories and beliefs. After the course or the gathering is completed, if you wish to return to your old beliefs and ways of living, you are at perfect liberty to do so. And I think that's really important to hear, especially right now where it feels sometimes like the Bible is being used as a weapon. And that's not our intention here. A few other preliminary remarks before I get into the meat of the subject. A thing is not true just because it is in the Bible. Something is in the Bible because it was felt to have value in the search for truth. The Bible is our story of our spiritual growth. No matter how far we wander from a spiritual standard, the Bible assures us there is always a way open to God. And by that last phrase, I take that to mean it's a two-way street, that we can listen and we can also talk, and we can explore what this means. As many of you who have heard me before know, I grew up in a fairly rigid church of origin. The exact denomination doesn't matter. I've done most of my forgiveness work, or at least I hope it's most of my forgiveness work. I've done significant forgiveness work. How's that? And I have been blessed by the gifts and the knowledge that I brought with me from that experience. And I think in some ways it makes me a better licensed unity teacher because I am able to cross the bridges between various denominations, and I have an understanding to some greater or lesser extent of what someone might be experiencing, how they might have been harmed in the past, what pains they're bringing to us in the community. That's not to say I can heal everybody, but I hope in this maybe I'll give you some food to think about and something to consider and, I don't know, journal about or reflect on. So in the first two, I talked about healing. And I mentioned that there were, in my opinion, that you could combine them into these 5 groups. Well, guess what? In my opinion, you can also apply thanks and gratitude to all of these, to reconciliation and restoration. An example of that might be that perhaps you have had an out with a friend or a family member, looking to find what you can be grateful for. In my own case, I can be grateful for somebody doing something that was illegal that kind of besmirched my character, or at least what people thought about me, because it got me out of a toxic situation that I had put blinders on and thought I had to stay in. And I have learned how to be grateful for some parts, and I've learned how to forgive the rest. Thanks and gratitudes for spiritual things, whether it's how we were raised as children in a spiritual community or how we weren't raised in spiritual community as a child and learned it as an adult. Illness, death. Part of me wants to say, what's there to be grateful for in death? When there has been suffering, when there is no chance of human healing, often death is something to be grateful for. Emotional, psychological. Again, what can we be grateful for? Perhaps it's an aha moment that we have while doing some journaling or out for a walk or speaking with a friend or a trusted counselor. And that lights up our mind and opens us up to whatever it is that we need to do for our next best step towards unfolding who we truly are. And then, of course, financial and work. I remember when I was taught early on in my Unity career about giving thanks for bills. And part of me wanted to say, are you kidding me? But as I'll explain, that's something that we can be grateful for. And sometimes it can be hard. And I'd never want to say that spiritual work is automatically easy. By the same token, I don't mean that it's automatically hard. But that if we come in with the awareness and preparedness that perhaps we will have to put some effort into it. Perhaps we will have to take some time to journal or go for a walk or just turn off our screens and the noise of the world and just listen to that voice within for a while. So let's talk a bit about Thanksgiving, gratitude, and thanks in the Bible. So one of my favorite things about living in this era is that when I went through school, I carried a suitcase full of books to and from class because I had 2 or 3 Bibles. I had my Bible dictionaries. I had my reference books. I had everything. And now I can get most of it at BibleGateway.com. And no, they're not paying me to say that. I just throw it out there because they have Bibles. Most of what's there is free. They have a variety of languages, of translations, and it's really been helpful for me to be able to look at different versions of the Bible. I have family who are a bit to the right of me in their biblical beliefs, and being able to read what it is, how they're reading their scripture is really handy, and putting it side by side with the translation that I tend to use or the translation that our co-founders used is really helpful for me. So in the new Revised Standard Version updated edition, there were 168 Bible results for thanks, which includes Thanksgiving because it's in the Word. So let's see how that shakes out. So we have 91 in the Old Testament, or as we call it in Unity, the Hebrew Scriptures, 51 in the New Testament, or as Unity calls it, the Christian Scriptures, and then we have 26 in the Apocrypha, also known as the Deuterocanonical books, which if you're not familiar with them, no worries. That's a whole other topic altogether. It's one of my favorites because it is books that sort of swing in and out of our scriptures over time. And there's some really cool material in there. It doesn't include in this list Bel and the Dragon or the Book of Susanna, which are some interesting glimpses into what the world was like at that time. But what I want to draw your attention to, Psalms. 55 times the word thanks or thanksgiving is given. Now, that's just in the English language in the NRSVUE version. I didn't check any other scripture, any other translation. So it may be that if you were to look at this in a French Bible, you might get different numbers. If you were to look at it in the King James Version, you might get different numbers again. Because this was a broad topic, I didn't want to go too far down the rabbit hole of how many times does it show up. But I just wanted to give you a sense of where it shows up. And what really surprised me, to be quite honest, because even though I've read the Bible, I'm not one of those people that can just pop off a whole bunch of, like, I can't recite the whole thing. There are some verses that I have committed to memory because they're special to me, they're sacred to me. But I confess, I was really surprised to discover that Leviticus had 4 points where it named thanks or thanksgiving. So, me being a Bible geek, I had to look it up, and I did. And where most of them show up is in chapter 7 in these verses. So, we've just gone through the rules about how to make sacrifices to the Lord. And I know a lot of you probably haven't read Leviticus because it is very much rules and regulations. That's a whole other kettle of fish. No, unity doesn't follow them to the letter. But we honor that this is part of our heritage in that Jesus was Jewish and he would have known these rules. We hear him say, or we're told that he said, according to the laws and the prophets. And the laws would have included the book of Leviticus. He would have been familiar with these things. So when I read this, I don't read it so much from a standpoint of, well, I'm a follower of truth teachings and this doesn't mean anything to me because I don't have to follow the rules, but rather, what flavor does this give to my understanding of Hebrew scriptures and therefore of what Jesus was teaching? So, starting at verse 11, this is the rule of the sacrifice of well-being that one may offer to the Lord. If you offer it for thanksgiving, you shall offer with the thank offering unleavened cakes mixed with oil, unleavened wafers spread with oil, and cakes of choice flour well soaked in oil. With your thanksgiving sacrifice of well-being, you shall bring your offering with cakes of leavened bread. So this would have fed the priests, and this is about having a gift to give, that expressing your thanks for something. And for me, it's in living in a consumerism society, we can forget about that aspect of being aware of our thanks, being aware of our ability to give and receive. It's two halves of the same coin. So oftentimes when someone says thank you to you, perhaps gives you a gift, it can be so important to reply in kind. And it doesn't necessarily have to be to the same person. The idea is that you're giving to the universe. In this particular case, you're giving it to a specific person for a specific purpose. But it brings us into that nature of it's not a sacrifice. It's, even though we talk about that word in the first verse, it's the sacrifice of well-being. You're giving a little bit of the food you have as a token of your gratitude. So being part of the whole. And that's something I realized when I read through the book of Leviticus, is it's very much about having God or the divine or your awareness of that divinity in all aspects of your life, every moment of every day. So that was an aha for me about Thanksgiving. Now, some of you may recognize this. It appears in 3 of the Gospels in these words. I believe it appears in Luke as well, but in slightly different description. Then ordering the crowd to sit down on the ground, he, meaning Jesus, took the 7 loaves and the fish, and after giving thanks, he broke them and gave them to the disciples. And the disciples gave them to the crowds. And all of them ate and were filled, and they took up the broken pieces left over, 7 baskets full. I remember being taught that this was a miracle. So you can imagine my surprise when, as I came into Unity and started learning different translations, different interpretations, different understandings, this was presented as a prosperity lesson, something that we could each benefit from. Why do we say grace before meals? Well, because that's what we do. And I remember one of my teachers telling me how his grandmother could say grace so quickly you couldn't hear a single word of it. because she was more key on the practice rather than the meaning. And yet we're told in here that grace was said, thanks was given for what was there, and somehow it was enough for everyone. I remember a time in a job I had, and we had a situation where we were put into lockdown. It was a serious situation, and it was just before lunchtime. And I was talking with a colleague. We were already in the lockdown area, and I said, it's Friday. Most of our colleagues go out for lunch. What can we do? Because we have folks who have experienced diabetes, and we've had to call the hospital, we've had to call for an ambulance when their blood sugar has dropped too far. And she immediately went and got a folding table out of the storage room and said, well, we both have snacks tucked in our desks, which was true. I had quite the selection, as should she. So we went and got the kettle out of the room. Thankfully, it was in an area that we could access, got some cups, put out the tea, we actually found some instant coffee, and we put the snacks out and we put a little sign, help yourself. And what was interesting was that as our colleagues were brought to our office to safety, all of a sudden that table started getting fuller. And in fact, when the police came to release us and say, it's okay, you can go home now. You've done your interviews. We've talked to you. We've crossed you off the list. We know you're safe. Have a good weekend if it's possible. There was actually still food on the table. That to me is the same as the loaves and fishes, because something happened there. And yes, she and I prayed in our own way over that table. We knew that there was something that could be done. We knew, even though we weren't necessarily on the same wavelength, that we were both able to give. And we were so grateful that we were in a place that not only were we safe, but that we could share of our abundance. And I remember people saying how grateful they were. And there were a lot of tears. There was a lot of, anxiety. And yet in that state of fear, there was gratitude because they realized that they were supported, they were safe, and they didn't have to worry about, their blood sugar was going to drop too far because there was food there. There were people already there who had their arms open and welcomed them and said, come, eat. So this was a big lesson for me. I mean, I when I talk to my friend, I don't talk to her as much as I would like to anymore. But we talk about the miracle of the unending table and how that happened. And I'm quite convinced that it was because we did it out of a sense of gratitude that we were able to provide, rather than out of fear or out of sense of duty or any of those things. It was out of that gratitude that others picked up on that energy of sharing, of being there for each other, and participated. Is that what happened there in Jesus' time? Who knows? But it certainly inspired both of us to do something at a time when it seemed kind of hopeless and kind of scary. And I look back on that and I'm so grateful for that experience. I don't want to go through a lockdown again. Don't get me wrong. Been there, done that, crossed it off the bucket list. I actually had to put it on the bucket list so I could cross it off. But that's an example of where our gratitude can come. From Philippians, do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. Now, this is a verse that Unity folks sometimes struggle with because we're not really keen on that word supplication, because it has a lot of baggage with it. And that's why I pulled it into today's talk, because I've been asked about it a number of times, and perhaps it's one that triggers you. But let's just change the word supplication and just perhaps change it to anticipation. Not that we are going to beg, because that's not Unity's way of prayer. Unity's way of prayer is affirmative, stating what is in the great truth, in the great oneness, in the great eternity, in the great universality, that whatever is true for me is true for anyone else, regardless of whether they have a spiritual path or not, what kind of behavior they've engaged in, that everyone is potentially equal. And it's around how we choose to act in our lives, how we choose to respond to things. The key word for me is thanksgiving. Giving thanks that something is going to happen before it happens. Giving thanks that all will be well when it feels hopeless. Giving thanks that even when it looks insurmountable, that if I commit myself to take the next best step and the next best step and the next best step over after that, that things will come to pass. I don't have time now, but I do have experience of having had these things happen in my life. And I've also had the experience of when I haven't put in Thanksgiving, when I haven't added the gratitude, when I've gotten frustrated and railed out, that, yeah, things slow down a bit. And sometimes they slow down so much that it feels like it's never going to come to fruition. Just some thoughts on that verse. From our co-founder, Charles Fillmore: be thankful for every blessing that you gain, and as deeply grateful for every demonstration as for an unexpected treasure dropped into your lap. This will keep your heart fresh, for true thanksgiving may be likened to rain falling upon ready soil, refreshing it and increasing its productiveness. I certainly wasn't taught that Thanksgiving was something that would increase productiveness or that it was a spiritual tool. In fact, it was something I had to do. And if I wasn't grateful, oh, I heard about it from various people in my church of origin. And that was one thing I had to unlearn, was that idea of you have to give thanks, but rather finding that space within me where I can be grateful for something. And funny thing, I earlier said that my church of origin did give me some gifts. And one gift was, we used to have comic books in church in the 70s. Yes, I am a kid of the 70s. We had Christian comic books. And if you're not familiar with Corrie ten Boom's story, The Hiding Place, she and her family hid Jews in their home until they were betrayed by someone, and her family and the people they hid were sent to the concentration camps. And on the front cover of this, she asks her older sister, Betsy, how can we go on turning the other cheek? And her sister says, we must, Corrie, we must show them love is stronger than hate. And in this comic book, which of course, collects the story in a way that's a little more understandable for children and not quite as horrific as the actual events. But in there, they talk about their Bible study group, and Betsy brings up 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verses 16 to 18. Rejoice always, pray without ceasing, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. And that was something I took with me, because what was reminded to us tweens at the time, as we were, was that if you could find something to be grateful for in a Nazi concentration camp, then how could you not find something to be grateful for in 20th century Canada? And one of the things that stuck with me was where they talk about, Corrie says, well, what do we have to be grateful for? And her sister reminds her that they weren't strip searched. So the Nazis didn't find that they had small Bibles hidden on their bodies. That because they had lice and bed bugs and other such vermin, that the soldiers didn't come to their bunks to abuse them. and so on and so forth. And I'll leave it at that because it does get kind of horrific, but just to be in that space of being grateful in all things. So I went, of course, to our co-founders, and uh, Charles often prepared comments about different Bible verses. And on November 23rd, 1941, he wrote something about this. Why is it important to rejoice always, pray without ceasing, and in everything give thanks? And his answer is, in order to keep ourselves continuously in the Christ consciousness, we should abide in the thought of God and express the faculties that help us to enter into that consciousness. So in Unity, we use the term Christ consciousness not to mean Jesus. We use Jesus as the man. We will use Jesus Christ for that. But we have the idea of the Christ being in each one of us. That is our term for the divinity within us, that oneness within us, that eternality within us. And as we connect with that, we can find that gratitude. We can find that ability to be thankful in all things. I really find it interesting that he wrote that around the time that Corrie and her family would have been hiding the Jews in their home. From Reverend Paulette, give thanks for more than just the things that feel right and feel comfortable. And as I've said numerous times already, it's not always easy. It's not always easy to give thanks for things that hurt, that feel painful, that are emotionally difficult. And yet finding the ability to be grateful for as much of it as you can be, even if it's just a small portion, can help with the whole experience, at least in my experience. So those are some of my thoughts about the Bible and Thanksgiving. And for our meditation, I would like to share with you the October affirmations from Silent Unity. Fall at Unity Village is always gorgeous. So I'll just invite you to get comfortable. If you want to keep your eyes open, there will be words on the slides. If you choose to just listen to my voice and allow my voice to be your voice for the next while, that's perfectly fine too. And breathing into this space, we take our 5 monthly affirmations. Our first affirmation for inner peace. Peace, peace. Peace is my nature. Peace is my true nature. Peace, peace. Peace is my true nature. For guidance. Centered in divine wisdom, I trust my inner knowing. Centered in divine wisdom, I trust my inner knowing. For healing. I celebrate ever-flowing vitality in my body and my life. I celebrate ever-flowing vitality in my body and my life. Prosperity. My mind is one with God mind, in which everything is possible. My mind is one with God mind, in which everything is possible. For world peace. Centered in Christ consciousness, I am the light of the world. Centered in Christ consciousness, I am the light of the world. And let us take these affirmations into our minds and hearts, knowing that as we know them for ourselves, we also know them for the rest of the world. And as our awareness, as our gratitude, as our love, as our light, as our understanding grows, we cannot help but bless the world. And let us take a moment in the silence to surround those for whom we have a prayer request in light and love in the silence. And in this intention, we send forth our love, our light, our peace, our understanding, and folding the world to the wholeness that it truly can be. I am grateful, and so it is.
Yes, I am here to love. Yes, I am here to serve. Yes, I am here to be the love of God. Yes, I am here to love. Yes, I am here to serve. Yes, I am here to be the love of God, my God. And I know forevermore that I am loved. Yes, I know forevermore
As always, our prayer chaplains and prayer team are available to you through praywithdiana@gmail.com. And Silent Unity is back to 24-hour service, which is wonderful. And you can contact them at www.silentunity.org. If this is your first time joining us on Zoom or on social media, please join our website and sign up for our newsletter so you can find out what's going on, the big picture. And you can also find ways to share of your time and talents. As always, we are fully funded by the donations and financial gifts of our congregants and those who watch our videos. So thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing of yourself. And you can find additional information and this information at our website. We are a tithing ministry. We share our gifts with Eden Food for Change and Unity Canada, which supports and encourages Unity ministries across Canada. So thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing of your time today, for sharing of your talents in the form of financial gifts, and for sharing of yourself. Thank you. Announcements. I've got a few. Starting this coming week, or in the past if you're watching later, we will be having count them, 5 courses beginning. They will last, I believe, for 5 or 6 weeks, for about 2 hours each. I will be facilitating a overview of Hebrew scriptures on Monday evenings. Wednesday, Reverend Rosemary Hyde will be sharing Healing and Wholeness. That's an overview of Myrtle Fillmore and Charles Fillmore's works on healing. If you don't know Unity's history, much of our founding came out of prayer and the spiritual journeys of those two folks and how they experienced physical healings. Wednesday evening, our fellow LUT, Debbie Long, will facilitate meditation practices. And then Thursday afternoon, she will also facilitate prosperity. And then starting next week on Friday, I believe that's the 18th, Foundations of Unity with Pauline Duncan Thrasher, who is one of our newest LUTs. This will be an exciting time for her to get her feet wet teaching the classes. Registration information can be gotten at the email address on the screen. Also upcoming later this month, the Unity Canada Virtual Conference in AGM. I am excited. I'm disappointed that we're doing it online again. And I'm excited about the folks that we have coming to speak with us. Reverend Sandra Campbell, I don't know her personally, but I have been in workshops and heard her as a keynote speaker before, and she always inspires me. And playing with prayer, Cheryl is a fellow licensed Unity teacher, and I know she will do an awesome job. I'm not as familiar with the other 2 workshop leaders. They are in British Columbia, but the BC folks that I know out there say that they will be fantastic and will be bringing an amazing amount to the conference as well. There is no charge if you want to attend the annual general meeting. I believe it's $100 for the conference, and you can attend as much or as little of it as you choose. They won't be taking attendance unless you're like me and you're a credentialed leader and need to have some credits for continuing education. So please join us. See what's happening. Come see how many folks there are across Canada. It's really been wonderful with Zoom, getting to know folks across the country. It used to be that I would see them maybe once, twice a year at most, and now I'm seeing them far more regularly, and that is gladdening my heart and deepening our commitment and our relationship with each other. Heads up, for those of you who don't think that it's too early to decorate for Christmas or start thinking about it. I know, we're not even at Thanksgiving yet, I know. But the Comfort of Christmas, which is our Advent booklet for this year, has been made available at unity.org. You might have to search for Christmas booklet, but it's free for download. I believe there might be shipping costs involved if you want a hard copy. But the important part, or the more important part, in my opinion, is that we will have a cross-Canada booklet discussion group Wednesdays starting November 27th, and we will go till the week before Christmas Day. And we'll have an opportunity to share our feelings about this and our thoughts on this and what we've learned as growing up and experiencing Christmas over the years. Normally, I ask the Prez if she has any announcements. So, Patty, if you do, perhaps you can put them on at the end of the recording. So, let us take into our minds and hearts children of our families, of our communities, of our country, of the world, knowing that each has its own special gift to bring to this planet, that they can be teachers as well as learners. Holding them in our minds and hearts, we say, children and youth of unity and of the world, we love you, we bless you, and we appreciate you just the way you are. And that's perfect in every way, no matter how human eyes might see it. And as we come to a closing, let us join together in our closing prayer. The light of God surrounds us. I am light. The love of God enfolds us. I am love. The power of God protects us. I am power. The presence of God watches over us. I am presence. Wherever we are, God is. I am divine. And as is tradition, Sue Riley's going to sing us out.
Peace in my life is growing because I choose love. Love's always present, it's what I'm made of. I choose love. We are a part of each other. We are one tie that binds us, that can't be undone. I choose love. Peace in my family is growing because I choose love. Let love be present, it's what we're made of. I choose love. We are a part of each other. We
thank you for joining us for this gathering. Blessings to you and yours as we celebrate Thanksgiving next weekend. Debbie Long, I believe, will be the speaker. And have a wonderful week. Blessings to you and yours.